All right, let's wrap up with our third and final operation that we're going to explore in this thought primer, and that is the operation of contraposition. And like aversion, contraposition involves two steps. Step number one is the same step as conversion. You switch the position of the subject and predicate terms. And step number two involves an element that we saw in our discussion of obversion. Now we replace not just the predicate term with its term complement, but both the subject and the predicate term. So both terms get replaced by their term complements in step two of contraposition. Okay. Now when we contrapose A statements or O statements, we're going to create new statements that look different, but communicate the same meaning, the same information, and have the same truth values as the original statements, right? So we look at a statement that an A statement that we've contraposed that was true, and we say this contraposed A statement is true by contraposition. Or if we apply contraposition to an O statement that we're told is false, we're going to say this new O statement that I've created through contraposition is also false by contraposition because the original was false. If, though, we try to apply the operation contraposition to E statements and I statements, we're going to get new statements that look different, but we're not going to know what their truth values are. They're going to have undetermined truth values because to contrapose an E statement or an I statement is to commit the illogical fallacy called illicit contraposition. Again, illicit simply means this breaks the rule of. This breaks the rule of contraposition because the rule of contraposition is that I will know the truth values of the resulting contraposed statement only if the original statement was an A statement or an O statement. All right, so let's see how this works. So let's say we have a statement like this, all cats are canines, and we're told that statement is true. We apply the first step of contraposition to that statement, and we just switch the position of the subject and predicate terms. How easy is that? Now we're ready to apply step number two. We want to replace both of those terms with their term complements. So we just toss in a couple of nons. And now we have a contraposed A statement that will have to be true because the original statement was true and the original statement was an A statement, and we can apply contraposition to A statements. Okay, so we'd say the resulting statement, all non-canines are non-cats, is true by contraposition. Right? And again, by saying by contraposition, we're providing proof that our claim that this new statement we've offered is true. Now let's say we take a statement like this: no cats or dogs, and we're told that's true, and we apply the first rule of contraposition, which means we switch the position of the subject and predicate terms. Now, interestingly, this statement would also be true, but by conversion. Okay, but now when we go to apply the second step of contraposition, watch what happens. We change both the subject and the predicate terms to their term complements, and we're not allowed to do that with E statements. Okay, so we can technically contrapose E statements, but when we do, the resulting statement is going to have an undetermined truth value. In fact, in this particular case, we can probably see that this statement is actually false, right? There are non-dogs like elephants that are also non-cats. So this statement would be false, but that doesn't matter. What we know about the actual truth values of the statement is irrelevant to the logically determined truth values. And this is a really important point because we can get easily distracted by the actual truth values of statements and miss out on the logic of the statements and how they were created. And that can lead us to accept really bad arguments as good ones. And we don't want to do that. All right, so you know what you get to do, right? I'm giving you a couple of statements here, and I want you to practice applying those two steps of contraposition to them and identify the truth value of the resulting statements. Of course, once again, peskily enough, I've given you two statements that are not standard form categorical statements, so you're going to have to begin by translating these two statements into standard form categorical statements, and then applying the two steps of contraposition and identifying the truth values of the resulting two statements. So go ahead and pause your video, practice on these two statements, and then when you're ready to check to make sure that you're understanding contraposition, restart your video and we'll check your work. All right, let's see what we got going here. So for our first statement, every motorcyclist is a gang member. That just screams out A statement to me, right? Every one of them, all of them. So all motorcyclists are gang members. So if the statement we're offered is false, our standard form translation is also going to be false. Step one, we're going to switch the position of the subject and predicate terms. All gang members are motorcyclists, okay? And then applying step two, we're going to change both of those terms to the term complement. So we would get all non-gang members are non-motorcyclists. And if the original statement was false, the contraposition is also going to be false because that false value follows the contraposed A statement. Okay, and so we'd say the new statement is false by contraposition because the original statement that I contraposed was false. Now let's look at your second statement. More than a few motorcyclists are gang members. Boy, doesn't that sound like an I statement? More than a few. Some motorcyclists are gang members. Okay, we're being told that's true. So we apply contraposition to it first by switching the position of the subject and predicate terms. Notice that this statement would be true, but not by contraposition, by conversion, because we're allowed to convert A statements. And then we do step number 2. We're going to replace both the subject and predicate terms with their term complements. But then we've got an undetermined truth value for this new statement we've created because of illicit contraposition. We broke the rule of contraposition by trying to apply it to an I statement. And while we can technically do that, when we do it, the resulting statement will have an undetermined truth value. All right, so in the next lecture, I'll prove what I'm telling you about contraposition is true.